Yeah, send it to send to
It's been recorded or live streamed. Like that's been recorded from Let's Preach. Sorry? We'll upload a bit of if I go to the architecture team development YouTube, I'll find it. It's been extreme on the Siku games. Siku games, yeah. But they will upload the beta version of the video. Right now we are just experimenting. La pianga inatumika huko hizo, na sina access hiyo. Ndio nani kupatia hiyo tempo. Na nani ana
Hey, Level. Good. How are you? Thank you for still joining in.
And in fact, they just changed it again this week for South Africa. Again, they've eliminated the fee. But I can see you. I can see your slides. That's great. Everybody's just having their tea break at the moment, so we're going to give 2 minutes. I'm going to plug in. I'm going to plug you back into the audio system, and then I'll introduce you whenever he comes back down, and we'll get started. Okay? Perfect. All right. Thanks so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, I'm going to ask you to please start making your way back downstairs. I'm glad we're having some really good conversations, but let's get started with the next session. And there'll be more time to talk again after a few of these sessions. So please make your way back downstairs, and we're going to get started again in a few minutes. I should be careful not to do the 2 thumbs up because then I get all these weird effects. Oh, no problem. Again, asking everybody to please come back downstairs, make your way downstairs. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. Please grab your seats. We have a really interesting talk coming up. Hope everybody got a chance to have something to eat. Check out some of the kiosks. You got your stars. Starting a video? Yes. This is yours, right? It's getting quite hot. So this morning, we've talked about a couple of games relating to the ocean already. We talked about Beyond Blue from Eline. Alan, it's amazing. We talked about the Monterey Bay example with Fathomverse, which is really interesting. Now we're going to take a very different view, but still relating to the ocean. And we're going to have a great presentation now from Levo, who was actually unfortunately supposed to be here with us today, had visa issues and couldn't actually make it. So thank you, Levo, for dialing in. And Levo's going to talk about a game that Sea Monster worked at in South Africa called Fish Force, which is talking about fisheries and responsible fishing and overfishing and environmental. Say that 10 times fast. around fisheries and using gaming as a training tool as well. So, Lebo, if you can hear us, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you very clearly.
Perfect. Yeah, we can hear you fine. So, everybody, I turn over to Lebo for the sponsor in South Africa.
So much, everybody, for having me. I'm gutted that I could not be there in person, but there is always a next time. By way of quick introduction, I've been at Sea Monster for the last decade. I've served as the head of client services. Really, my job is partly a sales job, but to work with the stakeholders from our customer side who buy. Very often, it will be the first game that they have endeavored to make. And so when you try and, convince corporates that the games are an adequate medium to address some of our greatest challenges, often eyebrows go up. However, I think we are all here because we believe in the collective power of digital technologies to transform education for the better. We always like to say that there is no educational experience that can't be made better than a game, and so I'm here today to specifically talk about those games. A little bit about Sea Monster. So we're located in Cape Town, the southern tip of Africa, and we really make games that drive business and social goals at scale. In so doing, we like to say that we play at the intersection of play and purpose. Very many of our experiences have been centered around social education, financial education. The example that I'm going to speak to you today really falls into one of those categories as well. Our philosophy is that games will change the world, but we do not profess to be experts at game making ourselves. Over the last decade, we've simply made 60 and 70 experiences of various scale, and so with every single one, we have just learned one more thing. In order to achieve what we want to achieve, we typically partner with subject matter experts because this allows us to foster buy-in and we bring our skills and engagement to the fore, but we often admit that we know nothing about the subject matter that they are talking about. So when we try and root our games in the work that other academics have done, well, is in the following ways. Number one, things relate very deeply to archetypes, story arcs, and to the depth and complexity of a believable world. From the unconscious, when we used to sit around fires, stories are how we believe human beings make sense of the world. Stories are about characters. Characters are able to influence the world around them in their stories. This is called agency. And this allows them to display a certain nuance and an application of skill, which can in turn, of course, help us to promote behavior change. Think a little bit about our deep relation to the avatars that we create. We try and grow this industry of ours. Those long-form storytellers are our natural allies as we grow the industry as well. Another thing that we pay particular attention to is around gamification of things. And often when we are engaging our customers who come from an academic background or a background that is more corporate in academics, they appreciate the fact that you are able to draw on academics in order to propose solutions for them. And so, from the perspective of mechanics, what we do is we can dangle experiences in front of users, but essentially, unless we find ways to unlock intrinsic motivation, we are not going to get this long-term engagement that we want in terms of the experiences that we put together. And when we are able to do this, what we are able to do with our games and experiences is put in a state of flow, where they are challenged, the experience is not too simple, and that keeps them going. And so, for us, when we are able to speak about games rooted in the academic work of other people, but around what it is that we are doing and create a sense of realness and gravitas around that. And so the way we think about games is very simply, the game must have a goal. And this is not the goal of the academic or the goal of the trainer, but what is the goal for the user that we put at the center of this experience? What are the rules as well that they need to abide by that are going to guide them through this experience and also having difficulty. Also, what are those feedback systems? How do we communicate feedback, use it, and how do we, administrators of these things, also put essential insights in terms of how people are playing? And the last thing I would say is most importantly, games are about voluntary participation. The opposite of that is called work, and that's why you and I have got to be paid a lot to work up and work every single day. And so then really let's have to think about some of these things. The context of the game that we created, well, there's an academy in South Africa called Fish Force, and they are responsible for training the officials and cadets who are at the front line of the fight against fisheries crime. This is a partnership between the Nelson Mandela University and the Norwegian government. And where it is located from a South African point of view, it forms part of Operation Phakisa. Operation Phakisa is part of our country's national development plan to protect and to preserve our ocean economy and biodiversity. So these are the individuals who are very much at the core face of that particular fight. The ambition of this organization is to establish a set of law enforcement and prosecutions all around the country to expand this capacity to be able to serve sub-Saharan Africa and eventually be able to reach out to strategic partners in Southeast Asia to essentially serve the economy and biodiversity as well. A very traditional training institution. So what was the challenge? Well, these training academies are all around South Africa. The levels of access of technology at these training facilities is not necessarily always the same. A lot of the training is carried out in person. There are few subject matter experts around the country. It's time consuming, expensive. The other challenge, of course, was that when COVID-19 hit, there was an inability to be able to carry out some of this training. And that's really where the opportunity arose. Because we had seen previous success in replacing certain elements of training, specifically practical fear of height assessment and replacing that with a virtual assessment, that stood us in good stead when we had the discussion with Fish Force to say, look, we believe that we can create a digital game that fosters, supports education, but also can create a safe space for individuals to fail, and we can make this broadly accessible through the various training institutions around the country. And so the solution that we came to through a collaboration we called Fish Force. And really this has been like developed in response to that need. So what we do in Fish Force is it's a browser-based inspection of vessels at port. The officer's responsibility. In fact, a lot of the initial investigations, the initial experiences that these cadets are exposed to will be around inspecting vessels that have arrived at port. And so what we elected to do was use a variety of game mechanics, specifically detective game mechanics, to immerse them in this world of virtual fishing, inspecting documentation, interviewing crew members in order to be able to identify risks and violations. And so what the game does really challenges trainees to apply a level of critical thinking, diligence, and curiosity as they dive into the experience. And ultimately, it serves to equip FCOs, fisheries control officers, the training environment, but also helps to bolster their skills. Because conservation and sustainability is actually at the core of Operation Phakisa, really what we aim to do is to make heroes out of these typical fisheries control officers. And this, of course, is in line with the goal 14 of the SDGs, Life Below Water. I'm going to ask you to just indulge me for 41 seconds as I play this trade.
26 million tons of fish are being removed every year. A vast global undercurrent of poachers get away with destroying our planet's marine life. The world needs heroes with a sharp mind, a keen eye for detail, and a love of it. The world needs visionaries.
My apologies, it seems as if that animation was not playing very clearly. No matter, I will share a link to that and also a link to that. What it is that we include as well. The job of a fisheries control officer is not very glamorous, but what we aim to do is to create this environment that simulates the environment. The concept in South Africa, we created this is that number one, data is expensive, and the majority of our users have access to the most basic smartphones. This means that from a creative point of view, it's economical in what is that we make a lot of didn't have a constant supply of data and therefore would have to depend on their own ability to procure that. This solution is playable on phones, light on data, and again, it's intended to supplement effective training. When face-to-face is not available, but also gets used as a means of having a refresher experience when they need to practice some of their skills before they go and actually inspect these vessels at port. How is this experience? Well, you've got a set of characters that inhabit these worlds, and the characters on board these vessels lend story and meaning to what it is that the player does, while also providing responses which either help or hinder the inspection. This simulates sort of real life on-the-job encounters which FCOs are required to really navigate daily. From a character design perspective, it was also important for us to reflect the diversity of characters and cultures that users may come across in their day-to-day existence. Again, FCO's responsibilities revolve around investigation, gathering of information. This is not exciting, it is not glamorous, but is a critical part of them fulfilling their responsibilities. And again, this was an important element that we wanted to emulate in the game. And so what these Fish Force heroes do is they spend time gathering information from the type of vessel or the ship's documents that they are exposed to in real life. What they do in the game is they inspect and cross-check ship information and crew details, supplemented by their training in order to make those critical decisions as well. The game also encourages users to focus most on the most important part of the activity, and that is really the note taking those aspects of the information and flagging any problems or any information that may be contradictory. Again, emulating what is that we expected to do in real life. And so through the process of design, with the critical input of the subject matter experts from the NMU and the Fish Force Academy, it was decided that the core skills to be investigated or to be focused on for bridge inspectors is around critical thinking, diligence, and a natural curiosity. And so we designed the game to ensure that scoring high meant that you had to show an aptitude or you had to demonstrate skill in each of these areas throughout the playing simulation. And again, this was captured by the user's ability to capture those all important words and elements of data as well. So what I'd like to do is to very quickly demonstrate what a simple playthrough scenario looks like. And what you will see here is an experience that is focused on a vessel that may have an expired fishing permit. And that is the conclusion that the user is expected to come to. So the game will start. Users will pick a scenario that they want to try, and they will immediately receive the orientation from the virtual supervisor. Again, if you pay attention to the detail that is on the screen here, you will note that the supervisor is hinting what the problem may be inspired. As you go through successive play sessions, the information or the things that you are given in that briefing may become more obscure, forcing you to apply a little thinking as well. Right. Once you have received your brief from the supervisor, the game then opens up onto the other side of the dock. which is where the inspection typically begins. The game invites users to tap on objects that are located within the scene and would know what kind of elements or objects to look at because they have a level of for. From then onwards, what we do to the inside of the vessel, and this is the next tool that they will be exposed to. So again, they've got to look around, they've got to be aware of what the critical elements are, and this is getting in touch with keeping with what the FCOs do in a natural environment. The most important part, or the major part of any inspection or pre-inspection protocol is where the users then check out the bridge of the ship where the captain is typically located. Here is where they are required to look at every single element because we've got a sandbox of all of these to encourage them to interact with the character, but also just apply themselves to technical mechanics to ensure that they are able to pick up things that make sense to make sense. Every single part of the game is part of an open inspection sandbox, so all of the elements will have added levels of information around them, where we of course encourage the user to be able to take much more. And so we leave it up to the player to decide which of the actions are most relevant for a given character or person, a given object that they might see in the game, or a given document that they might be required to review as well. Inspecting any item in terms of those three categories gives the player access to a deeper level of information. It is then up to the player to decide what to do with this information in terms of what they tag as relevant, what they wrote down, and what they actually report to enable them to make that more important conclusion as well. At any single time, what the players can do is they can pull up access to their digital notebook, but all of the information that they captured during the sessions to use and ordered list. And here is where they start to draw their conclusions in terms of text, where they are able to tag notes and show inconsistencies or violations, and again start to demonstrate some of that critical thinking skill. When the player is satisfied with the inspection, the session is closed. Simple question: was there any illegal, unreported, fishing on this vessel? With that answer, the player is then given a performance breakdown based on the level of notes that they took, the level of issues that they flagged, and the thoroughness of the inspection. It is these three elements that give rise to, at least a measure of how much critical thinking they displayed, how much due diligence they displayed, and also if there was a requisite level of curiosity that involves looking beyond just the elements that they would do necessary in order to reach a conclusion as well. What we then do is we then send these scores to providers as a way of failing safely and just essentially leveling up as well. In terms of the big picture and where we are, the demo that you've seen is very, very short. Focused around just that thing was to be able to inform their business case around how an initiative like this will go forward. And so we have already given thought to the more niche and complex and dangerous costs and how we might be able to emulate those as the game sees the success through its implementation. I know that people might be keen to say what level of results we see, but we spread the first level of assessment that come out of this. However, certain experiences, similar texts, where we have created trainings or partly replaced elements, we have actually seen those initiatives return an investment over a period of about 12 to 18 months. Where would we go from here? Well, things that we have also is that the game is focused now on inspecting vessels that are port. But again, for fisheries control officers, they are sometimes required to go and dock and inspect vessels at sea before they even come to port. Very, very recently in Cape Town, we had a case where 19 1,000 live herd of cattle were brought into port. And described what a stench it created of Cape Town, but again, the fisheries officers were able to act with the help of local government, with the help of the SPCA, to essentially go and make interventions on that kind of environment. And of course, it has an added knock-on effect because it affects the lives of those individuals who man these ships as well. And so, yeah, these are some of the future considerations that we have given to. We have also given thought to the fact that this experience be extended to fisheries themselves. And so really what we want to aim and endeavor to be able to do in partnership with the NMU is to be able to move from assessment to action. We believe that the data and information that comes out of games like these plays an important part in helping to upskill fisheries process by filling out the full life cycle of work expected from an SEO. We can do things like these virtual inspection checks, but we can help foster the level of training all the way to the level where they are actually required to interact with other government agencies or other law enforcement agencies as well. And so we believe that that is the wide scope that we have and that it actually does work. How do we then scale up, or how do we then take this further? Well, this game has been focused specifically on tuna longliners and the regional South African activities as well. But as NMU and the Fish Force expands their capacity to be able to support Southern Africa by expanding that to the types of vessels, the types of other fishing, we believe that the group of the audience members as well. Again, challenges in the Eastern Cape region of the country are severe, typically one of the least funded provinces in the country. And so we have seen serious challenges in their own internal capacity to be able to take this forward. The lessons that we have sometimes seen from this that we then open to share with other successive customers is that it's very critical that as you are creating the game experience, you give thought to how you are going to take that to market or how you are going to promote that with your respective audiences. The benefit here is because we made the subject matter experts, the trainers and the law enforcement officers a critical part of the design of the game. There was a natural buy-in, and so they become our first set of ambassadors to actually ensure that our end users actually take this up. From an end user perspective, during training, some of the insights that we were able to draw from them indicated that they liked the fact that they were able to play these experiences alone. They liked the fact that they were able to replay, again, giving credence to the fact that a safe environment where they can practice some of these skills, which of course then helps to build confidence for when they are able to do all of this in the real world and the real life as well. Again, to which I have mentioned how similar experiences have typically seen a return on their investment over a 12 to 18 month period. And so we're also waiting for bated breath to see whether this falls into that particular category as well. So where to from here? The big so what? In South Africa, we find that no one wants to talk about the fact that we are in a crisis. Our government typically speaks about 0.8% growth as a result. We believe that there is a dire crisis on our hands in South Africa, and that we cannot really bring in another generation of youth into a system that is ineffective in our country. Again, we need to prepare for this future to be able to take advantage of the youth dividend that is about to be yielded, because we suffer with massive problems of youth unemployment in South Africa. Why does this quote by E.O. Wilson, who is actually the father of biodiversity, mean so much to us? Because we think that it captures aptly the challenges that we are dealing with. The things that motivate us are the same emotions that we've had for millions and millions of years. Humans haven't really evolved since then. Our institutions today are still in some of the old ways of doing things, and yet the technology is becoming more and more godlike with every day and creating more and more of a divide. However, We believe that by considering all of these, we don't always necessarily need to look abroad for the solutions to some of our challenges. And so we are proud to be able to make African solutions to global problems. And we would love to collaborate with those of you who have the ability to disrupt and actually create real change. The question, of course, always remains, who is going to pay for this? And our response sometimes to our customers is, if you're wondering if games are expensive, the answer is not at all when you consider the alternative. And so we would like to encourage and invite everyone to join us in Games for Change. This is just an industry body where we try and gather like-minded groups of people who believe in the power of games to be able to use them for driving social change to the benefit of all our human beings and fellow brothers and sisters as well. Thank you very much for indulging me. I don't know if there are any questions that may come up, but I trust that you found this interesting as well. Thank you so much. My name is Diego.
Thanks so much, Lebo. Really informative. I think it's a great example of how games can not only be used for consumers and trying to change the behavior of consumer players, but also on the B2B side, more as a training tool internally. Gamification concepts, not directly games, can be used for operational efficiencies and that sort of thing. So, really interesting example. Thank you, Lebo. Any questions before we release Lebo? Anybody in the audience have any questions from Lebo? All right. Thank you so much, Lebo. We really appreciate your dialing in, even if you couldn't make it here in person. And we wish you a good weekend.
Thank you so very much, guys. And again, Jay, I'll just have to jump on in my spare time and come and see you guys. I'd love to be there, and certainly that the opportunity will present itself again. Thank you so much, everybody, for your attention. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the festival. Goodbye.
Thanks, Lebo. So our next speaker was also supposed to be here, and then she fell ill. And so she's also dialing in. So just give me 1 minute, and we'll switch calls across. We'll be here. So we are Yes. Hi, Deb. Deb, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yay, we can hear you. So this morning we talked about the massive reach of gaming and why it's an important tool for doing behavior change, particularly around climate action. We talked about like these 3.2 billion people, right? Now, we also talked about how in the 80s you would use like MTV to reach billions of people, right? Well, what if I told you there's a studio who reaches 200 million people every month and have earned billions of dollars from games like Clash of Clans, Heyday, Battle Royale. There's so many games. Supercell is an amazing studio out of Finland, and we're so honored and privileged to have Deb Mensah-Bonsu here today with us, who is really a leader also in the Games for Change, Games for Good type environment. She's been the founding member of Play for the Planet for years. She was one of the judges here at African Games Week. She's really been a huge supporter for the African gaming environment, and we're so thrilled to have her. So Deb, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I'm looking at a screen of slides so I can see, but at the end, I will definitely get rid of the slides so I can see some of you, hopefully, and then if there's any questions or anything as well. And if something gets stuck or doesn't work, just shout. I mean, your presentation, that would be great. But thank you so much, Jay, for the introduction. And sorry I couldn't be there in person. I was about to get on a plane yesterday and was not feeling well at all. So this in virtually instead. But yay for the planet. Yeah, thanks so much to Jay. Thanks so much to Lisa and the team at Play for the Planet for putting this together. It's such a great initiative. But Supercell, that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. And I will talk a little bit about what Jay mentioned about this scale of reach as well. So Supercell, like Jay mentioned, we're headquartered in Helsinki. We have 5 live games, some of which I'm sure that you've played. I myself work on something called GiveBack, which is the philanthropic arm of the company, and we'll talk a bit more about that as well. So Supercell, this is the company's mission statement. So our dream is to create great games that as many people as possible play for years and that are remembered forever. So we have quite a high bar when it comes to those games that play by as many people as possible and remembered forever. And for as many games as we put out, there is, probably 5 to 10 games that are in the graveyard that didn't out and that didn't get shipped because of that high bar. But when we think of as many people as possible, we're doing pretty well. We're really lucky. We have, as Jay mentioned, 200 million players every month, and I think something that is really important to all the game teams here is that for them it's always day one. So even though some have been around for more than a decade, the game team is always thinking about how can they improve these games, how can we best serve our players. Our players are always at the heart of everything that we do. So whether that's features we create, whether that's how we best structure our company culture so that we're able to meet the needs of our players, that's always really, really important to us. And next picture is something I like to share, or we all like to share, is that it seems really impressive, but it hasn't always been that way. This is actually Supercell's first office. On the right there, that's Ilkka Paananen, who's the CEO of Supercell, and there was no space for him in the actual office more than a decade ago. So he was like out in the hall, working on a cardboard box. So yeah, coming from humble beginnings, and this is our office now. So it's a beautiful space. We're really, really lucky, and it's also not our only office. So we are headquartered in Helsinki. There's about 400 of us that work here, but then we also have studios in South Korea, in Seoul, in Shanghai, in China, and as well as San Francisco. And then we have a North American studio as well, which is entirely remote. So we have people in like LA, Seattle, working for that studio too. And one thing that I really want to, impress upon everybody in the room and like your local game scene is that none of that we really would have been possible like, without the community that we came up out of, right? So Helsinki especially is really known for its gaming community, the way that developers share with each other, share learnings, share successes, really try to help develop each other as well. And it's out of that kind of incubator that Supercell also came. So I would just really encourage everyone within within your gaming community, like this is the time to really band together and help each other, because if one of you wins, like everybody wins, and that's really the approach that the games industry here has taken, and it's really paid dividends. So that's something I wanted to share. And then when it comes to our culture, which I mentioned before, originally it was thought that the best people will make the best games, but we quite quickly pivoted as a company and within our company culture to replace that with being the place where the best teams to create the best games, because it really is how people are working together, and that is the most important, not any one individual. And these teams, they have a lot of independence and trust. So, hear that phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. That's kind of the way our teams run here. So they're very autonomous, independent. They make their own decisions. Also about whether to kill a game, they decide themselves, which is, of course, a lot of freedom, but a lot of weight as well, right? And so this idea of ambition and ownership is one that's really central to Supercell. But beyond the kinds of games that we want to make, we also think a lot about what kind of games company we want to be. And that's also where something comes in, for example, because really at the heart of the company, we have trying to do the responsible thing. Like we really think that like no matter what your business is, you should always be trying to run it in the most responsible way possible. And we, through our philanthropic arm called GiveBack, we donate 1% of our pre-tax profits towards philanthropic giving. So anything we do with charities, NGOs, etc. That's kind of the field. And the reason we do it, one, is that we have been really, really lucky with our success, and so it is within our DNA to want to give back. And a lot of the stuff we really don't talk about, or historically haven't talked about. We really try to only tell the stories that merit telling, and actually think it's important to tell more stories so we know what other people are doing, right? So that's really important. And when it comes to our approach around Give Back, we always look for projects impactful, otherwise why are we doing it? Scalable, so it's something that can work in one area, can that also work for another? What's the maximum amount of people that we can reach or help? Innovation is huge, just within, again, Supercell culture too. We always try to break new ground in the games that we're developing and the way that we think about things, and that applies to the partners that we work with as well. And then the last one is the teams part that I mentioned before, like within our company, but then also externally, we really look for teams that have something special. And you might not always get all of these things at the same time, but the part we never sacrifice is on teams, right? Because we don't want to micromanage anyone that we're working with. And then when it comes to the sort of main areas that some of our work has gone around, one is education and innovation. So we have a coding school that we fund here in Helsinki that is free, that anyone can attend. We also partner with hundreds, and they find education innovations all over the world. And then one of the biggest projects that helps feed schools, and they are an accelerated learning program, also a play-based learning program to help kids get back into school once they have dropped out. Another big area has been disaster and humanitarian relief. Anything from the rights movements, we're always trying to get back in those areas. And then, of course, the reason we're all here today, last bucket is around environment. And on environment, of course, I do a lot of work, and Vitari, who some of you may know, also does a lot of our carbon accounting. And when it comes to the environment, I'll share a little bit about our sustainability journey. Of course, we're members of Plant for the Planet. We also donate a lot to John Nerman, and they're charged with cleaning up the Baltic Sea, for example. Yeah, when it comes to us, for us, it really started in like 2018, 2019. We became founding members of Playing for the Planet in 2019. And around the same time, we had started doing our carbon accounting. So we became carbon neutral in 2020. We offset 200% of our footprint, as well as the footprint of our players that's used by playing. And then we're always looking at ways that we can mitigate our footprint. And of course, carbon offsetting has become pretty contentious in recent years. So we're always looking for new ways that we can make investments in things like green tech, for example, so that we don't stagnate in our approach. That's sort of on a company level, but then of course, our games are a huge way that we can also make an impact when it comes to this environmental pillar. This is just a snapshot of last year. The Green Game Jam theme was wildlife, and we had 3 of our different games participate. On the left there, that's Brawl Stars. They really embraced this, the Harlequin Toad, which was a mascot for the jam last year. We had Clash Royale in the middle, who tried to give a little bit of space to a lot of different endangered species, and then had Blue Beach on the right that was focusing on sea turtle conservation. And we were really lucky as well. We won a couple of awards for Blue Beach, and the year before that, we also won a couple of awards for our activation in Heyday. And I'll just talk a little bit about both of those. And yeah, if you can't hear me or anything, let's want to just stop. So in Heyday, the theme was Food Forests in the Future 2 years ago for the jam. And so we focused on regenerative agriculture. Heyday is a farming game. It's a really nice farming game where nothing bad ever happens in Heyday. Everyone's really happy. None of the animals died. Yeah, a really nice place to be. And through Heyday, we also try to teach our players a little bit about what does sustainable farming look like and what is regenerative agriculture. So we partnered with an institution called the Rodale Institute, and we try to get our players to understand this connection between healthy soil, meaning healthy food, which then equates to healthy people. And pre-activation that we did, there was an in-game event, and the players had to collectively reach a goal, and once they did that, it unlocked funding for farmers in real life to convert their farming practices, which equates to about like 3,000 acres of land that could be converted to more regenerative practices because of that. And then another one we did in Blue Beach was around sea turtle conservation. And with that, it was very, very in-depth and elaborate. But also the first thing that we actually used our influencers, our creators, to be like a central part of the campaign. So rather than us telling the story, we let our creators, these ones we call the Cosmic Duo, actually interview the conservationists and then tell the story to the players themselves about the threats that turtles were facing. The player community also got to adopt a turtle because the creators also went turtle tagging, so we got to adopt a real life turtle, and then players got to name that turtle together as a community, and then be able to follow the migratory pattern of that turtle online, which was pretty cool. And these are just some of the kind of reactions that that players have to some of this stuff. This is from Heyday, so thank you for giving us the opportunity to help others. Amazing collaboration, and you can see there, like more than 2 million people were reached through that campaign just on social media alone. So players really like to be a part of something that also makes them feel good. We're especially to actually help save the turtles. So he hates everyone, but he loves turtles. And so they really like seeing Dr. T the villain become like a good guy for a second just for this cause. And then this sort of last part I wanted to chat about a little bit is, why should we all be taking games seriously? And maybe this is also for games in the crowd. There might be some people joining now or maybe watching later also from the UN or maybe some policymakers, etc. So I just wanted to touch on this a little bit because I do think it is important. And for anyone who's not converted in the room. But yeah, just this is a one from Clash, of course, and the Clash brands alone. So we have Clans, Clash Royale. Just those brands alone, they have a $14 billion lifetime revenue. So one of the reasons the games industry is so important is, of course, financial, right? And when we think about Supercell itself has been, in the past years, been the biggest single corporate taxpayer in Finland. So when you think of what that does for like a country's GDP, like that's a really big deal, right? And the only companies that sort of beat Supercell are groups. So when you think of like oil, gas, finance, those are the ones that top a company like Supercell's. And then Bayer and Supercell, I guess, have been contending for that #1 spot. This is last year. I think they beat us last year when it comes to paying most taxes as a single corporate entity. So that's a big deal, right? Like that's a big deal. And then another big reason is time. Like people spend so much time in games. So our games alone have been played for more than 160 billion hours. More people can spend time. And then our games again have over 6 billion downloads. And when you think about that, there are only like 8 billion people on the planet, right? that's a big number. And then, I mentioned this 200 million players every month, which is a big number. And just to put that in context, like that's in the same ballpark as Netflix, right? I think they have 260 million paid subscribers. So games are really like the defining medium of our time. And we're just one studio. And of course, we're a really successful studio. We're really proud of that, but we're one studio. And there are more than 1,000 game studios across the world. And games are everywhere. They are played by everyone. Gaming is the biggest entertainment industry of our time. Like I said, it's shaping our culture. And last year, revenue from gaming worldwide was estimated at $347 billion, which is doubled since 2020, which is crazy. And we mentioned before, Jay said there are more than 3 billion gamers on the planet. Again, just for context, like that's more people than drink coffee. So it is ubiquitous. Games are really everywhere. And I, for one, and I'm sure everyone in the room, or at least most people in the room, think that's like a really good thing because games can do what no other medium can do. Games are not passive. They get us to engage and they can train mindsets, right? They can train our minds for resilience, for perseverance. They encourage cooperation and community building. This idea of being okay to fail and then trying again. And these mindsets are exactly what we all need to adopt to try to face, some of our big and community. They also, or at least they can. This is just like an image from our game Heyday, where we were celebrating World Kindness Day. Like if we can get 200 million people to be a bit more kind, and that's just us, just our company, like imagine what we can do together on a global scale.